Hello! Today my guests are Bird and Amanda Brown. They are two of the members of the local band, the Fender Benders, and they play mostly out of Fort Worth, but all over the Metroplex. And they also went to school in Grand Prairie ISD, and I invited them onto the show because I thought that was really interesting to talk about music and those students that came out of our GPISD schools and are now performing. And so it's a very good conversation. We talk a lot about just being in the music business and reminisce over old school music, like growing up in the 90s in suburbia and some of the musical influences that we had growing up. It's a great conversation. I'm very excited that they were willing to be on the podcast for their first time. They did a great job. So today's sponsor is me, Jenna Pecor. I am with Bancroft Realty. It is a local Grand Prairie boutique brokerage, and I have been doing real estate for now over 11 years. And also Generosity Estate Sales. We do estate sales for people looking to liquidate the contents of their home. So with me, you can liquidate the contents of your home and also sell your home. Or if you're looking to buy a home, I would love to help you out with that as well. I am looking for other local business sponsors for this podcast. So if you would like to sponsor an episode of the Faces of Grand Prairie podcast, go to our website at facesofgrandprairie.org. And at the top, you'll see a banner that says sponsor the podcast. And you can go on there and become an episode sponsor. That will entitle you to having a permanent sponsorship on that episode for as long as that episode stays on the website. And so that one little sponsorship will last for a really long time. We're also looking for sponsors for our website and just monthly donations. If you just think that what we're doing is is valuable and is adding to the community and you want to see it continue, go online and just give us a one-time donation. We would love to see that. This does take time and resources, but I love doing it. It's definitely something that is a passion of mine. And so I just want to thank you in advance for the support for the local community, bringing back local news, bringing back local community information and interviews and those kinds of things. So without further ado, here is Bird and Amanda Brown. Hello, Amanda.
Hello, Jenna. Thank you for having us on your podcast.
It's my pleasure. I'm just so excited. And hi, Bird.
Hello.
And thank you for fixing our sound problem just a second ago.
Oh, yeah. I do a lot of that.
Yeah, well, we appreciate you very much. So I'm so glad that y'all are here.
It's very exciting to be here. It's our first podcasting experience. So
yes, I love that. It's always good to bring people. There's still a lot of people that have no clue what a podcast is.
It's surprising. They've been around a while, but it's really just now beginning to grow and become a big media outlet.
Yes, and especially now that people are doing a lot through YouTube. So like we had them like on Spot. I put out all of those, like Spotify, Apple, all that stuff. But now that we have like actual cameras, it's a great medium to do long form interviews, like, and not just little snippets here and there. You know what I mean? But a lot of people just still don't know. So I'm having to teach. So this is new because when people walk by, they always like to stop and see what we're doing. And I'm like, maybe people will see this and like go to there. That's the great thing about recording here at the Epic is that there's all these people that walk by all the time. So I'm trying to teach Grand Prairians what a podcast is.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like you're doing a fantastic
job. Thank you. Having interesting people on always helps. So, so where'd y'all come from today?
We still live in Grand Prairie.
Oh, good.
So just down the street.
Just down the street. And y'all brought a shirt with you to give me. And I'm very excited about this. This is my t-shirt. So I had to go change because it is a little warm in here. Like literally 4 days ago, it was like freezing, and now it's like a little bit warm. So where do y'all live, on the north side or south side?
Kind of on the north side of Grand Prairie, and we've lived on all the sides of Grand Prairie over the years. Mm-hmm. So there's not a bad side to be on.
No, there's not. There's not. So tell people a little bit about like where you came from, what schools you went to, so that people have an idea of, and because you are a graduate of Grand Prairie ISD.
I actually didn't graduate.
Oh, you didn't graduate?
No, we ended up having our daughter and left school a little early to start our family and careers and have surprisingly done okay for a couple of folks that didn't actually graduate high school.
But where'd you go to high school?
We went to South Grand Prairie. I've been going to school here in Grand Prairie my whole life. We started off at Zavala, where we both went as elementary school students, and moved from that part of town to the south side of town and went to Truman Middle School, and that's where we met.
Oh, you're a Truman guy.
Right, yeah.
Okay, I got you. JB was on here, and he was talking about that.
Yes, I remember JB from Truman as well.
Yeah, for sure. I've known him since we were kids.
And then
really
high school at South. Go ahead.
South.
Oh no, I was just saying. Yeah, JB. I remember we had classes together in like 6th grade.
So did you graduate, or you would have graduated in '99 with him?
I technically graduated from Evangel Temple, but I wouldn't say it really counts.
You went to Evangel Temple too?
No, through the homeschool.
Just through the homeschool.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
My ex-husband went to Evangel Temple, and then JB said that he went there for a couple years.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. And so there's a lot of people actually that kind of went through Evangel Temple.
Yeah.
They did. So yeah, JB, he was on here, he's talking about Jackson and Truman going at it each other, and I'm like, yeah, you do that a lot on Facebook every once in a while.
The rivalry. It just never ends.
But the reason, of course, I always like talking to graduates. I always like talking to alumni. I always like talking to people that grew up in Grand Prairie. But the reason that y'all are here today is because I don't even know. We weren't even friends on Facebook, I don't think.
Oh,
maybe my old profile before. I had a profile at some point, but somewhere you got linked that y'all had won an award. And I was like, oh my gosh, y'all won an award. And then I was like, this is a cool band. So I said, come on and talk to me. So that is amazing. So like you got into music, you said you started a family. So how old is your daughter, you said?
She'll be 28 March 5th.
Oh my gosh.
It's gone by really fast.
Did y'all have any more kids?
No, just the one.
And are your grandmothers?
Not yet.
Can you believe we're even talking about that?
No.
I know.
No. Although it's kind of cool. We're wise now.
We are wise.
Yeah.
This is very true. 40s are not a terrible decade.
No.
It's going pretty good so far. So
yes, you know who you are at this age.
Yes. So were you into music when you were in school?
I always, knew I loved music from music class, even as early as elementary school when they'd bring out the little instruments. I was always so excited to get to play them because I didn't have that at home. And I didn't have that influence in my home growing up. But I didn't really dig into music until I met him.
Oh, okay. And how old were y'all when y'all met? Met each other?
12, 13.
Oh, seriously? Yeah. So y'all are high school and middle school sweethearts.
Yeah.
We really have been together since I was 14 and she was 15.
Oh my gosh.
How about that?
Wow, that's incredible.
That's 30 years.
So did y'all start just listening to music together, or have y'all played that whole time?
Well, actually, it really all stems from his line of music. When I met him, he was in punk rock bands.
Ah.
Yeah.
And if you want to elaborate on that some.
Yeah, I grew up in a music family. So my dad and my uncle were professional musicians. My mom was like a singer-songwriter, but she was also an advertising executive. So wow. She was like the breadwinner, and my dad was a gigging musician my whole life. So I grew up like when I was a kid, it wasn't like, do you play music? It was like, what instrument do you play? Like everyone, the assumption. Everyone played. Yeah. Yeah. So when I met Amanda, I already played guitar and bass, and she kind of like, you had guitars in your house? But
my dad was beginning his midlife crisis. He went out and got him a Jackson guitar and a big old amp that had Slayer written in it in like Sharpie marker. And he'd pick up a couple of little things and he would noodle around at the house. And I really didn't try until I met him. And then once I saw them doing it, I'm like, well, if they can do it, well, maybe I can too.
Right.
And then that really started that whole process of trying to figure out, could I even play music?
So you taught her?
No, a little bit. When you're like in a music family, we all just show each other stuff all the time. So whatever level someone's at, you go like, hey, check this out, try this thing. So, but my dad really is the one that taught her. He was awesome. He was like the giant musical influence on all of us, and he passed away a few years back. And I played with him for 20 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah, professionally.
Wow.
And then after he passed away, I tried to find another bass player, a couple of people that I knew, and some other local guys. And then it was just hard because I came from having a family member in the band for so long. Finally, I was like, Amanda can do this. We got to get Amanda in the band. And She's been in the band for what, 3, 4?
Almost 3 years now.
Yeah.
3 years
that's
in
awesome.
April.
So what were you doing before?
Oh, writing songs at home, just picking around on the guitar and learning bass. His dad used to come over in the evenings and we'd watch Days of Our Lives together, and he would teach me a little bit about bass guitar, and he'd teach me how to read tab, which is where your fingers go on the notes for the bass guitar.
Mm-hmm.
And little by little, he was teaching me my foundation. And one year after we'd been dating a year or so, he bought me my first really professional bass guitar and amp, and was like, "Go on and flourish."
Wow.
And so I picked around at that for a while. And sometime in my 20s, a friend asked me to join their Alice in Chains cover band.
Oh, wow.
And it was mostly like a in the garage kind of thing where we practice for 1 or 2 gigs. And then that kind of fizzled out after a while, and I didn't do anything besides stay at home, write songs,
You wrote a lot of songs.
practice.
So you're really a songwriter.
I like to write songs, but as much as I like writing, I still haven't really got into the whole performing my original music yet.
Oh, so the songs that I saw on YouTube, were any of those yours?
The originals that are from our band, the Fender Benders, mostly stem from our singer, Sammy Perez.
Mm-hmm.
He has been the soul of the Fender Benders since 1997.
Oh,
so
wow.
He's a bit of an older guy, and he was in the band with Bird and his dad, and they've been doing this for many, many years.
So your dad was a part of the Fender Benders first?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Him and I were in the Fender Benders for about 13 years before Amanda was in the band.
Yes.
And then before that, we were in other bands together. But we were playing in this Dallas, like a top 40 band.
Mm-hmm.
And there's 8 people, because it's like, you got a saxophone player, you got 2 singers, you got a keyboard, and there was always drama. And eventually that was like, it was going to end. And he was like, listen, we need to go to Fort Worth because it'll be a lot more fun. And he knew Sam, our singer, and Sam needed a guitar player and a bass player. Just the stars aligned, and we went to Fort Worth, and I never looked back. Like, Fort Worth is the place to make music.
Wow.
I mean, Dallas is cool, but Fort Worth, if you're a musician, it's where it's at.
So, like, when you were growing up, what was your dad's influence mostly? Like, what kind of music?
In my house was like Stevie Wonder and Steely Dan, like a little bit of Miles Davis, a lot of Beatles, Jimi Hendrix, a lot. I mean, everything. Him and my uncle were into like jazz fusion, and they played in a band called the Shades from Grand Prairie.
Oh.
They went out to LA to record, but it didn't pan out. They ended up back in Grand Prairie. But so my musical influence was a mishmash of like R&B, funk, soul, like 60s, 70s, 80s musicians. The stuff musicians listen to is like what I grew up that was what was playing in the house. So, and then I got to be like 13. I was like, this is stupid. I'm punk now. And so I spent a solid
we were from the 90s.
7 years, yeah, doing that. But yeah, that my musical influence was like what musicians were into was the stuff that I heard when I was a kid.
Wow.
So also MTV was brand new.
Sure.
Like when I remember like some of my youngest memories are my dad watching MTV and being like, hey, look at this video.
Your dad was watching it.
Yeah, my dad was watching
Isn't
it.
that interesting?
Yeah, he was a straight up musician his whole life.
So he was really kind of more on the cutting edge of like what was going on at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He played, he was always doing whatever. Even like when he was old, he would be like, you got to come in and check out this Billie Eilish thing. I'd be like, huh?
Wow.
He'd be like, no, she's cool. Like he never stopped with
That's awesome.
figuring out what people liked. Yeah.
Wow. So what was yours? Like, what did you like?
Oh, well, growing up, my mom listened to country music pretty much exclusively. And my dad was like into new age music and the Fine Young Cannibals. You know, like that song, Should Drive Me Crazy.
Yes.
Boy,
yes.
he loved that. He
That's
loved that.
awesome.
So, I just had a whole different world of musical influence. And then a lot of that bled over into like I joined choir and we did choir and that was cool, but I got to be in a big group of people and never really found my voice in that. But I like every kind of music. There is something wonderful about every style of music. Every song has its place in time, and it's the memories you make with those that make them so special.
I'm glad you said that because that's a good segue for when I was listening to y'all's YouTube channel. I listened to all the songs that were on there. It's just, I assume it's just from one set because it looked like y'all were all wearing the same clothes. So it was, yeah. And there was several covers, but the ones that were original, like the second that it came on, I remember going to in the 80s, West End was a huge deal, and I had no idea who Stevie Ray Vaughan was. I had no idea, but I remember distinctly going down there and hearing the guitar. Like there would be bands, I'm sure, just playing like on the street or at a club or whatever. You're just walking around down there, and every time, when I heard that, I heard a lot of that influence into y'all's songs, and I was like, oh my gosh, it takes me back to the 80s in the West End.
Nice.
And that was like, but I didn't realize at the time how much that was such an influential sound in that area. I just didn't even put it together. I mean, in the 80s, I was into New Kids on the Block and stuff. I mean, I wasn't into like any of that, any of that stuff. So, but as I've grown up, that's kind of what memory it evokes for me. I just have this memory of like the wafting guitar in the air. I don't know. It's like right there by Planet Hollywood.
Yeah.
You know where that used to be?
Yeah.
It's, and I'm sure there was just all these bands that were around.
My dad's band played West End Marketplace every Sunday for 7 years during that time period.
Is that right?
It is. Yeah. They played there as the Party Crashers and they played there as the Shades, but it wasn't him and his brother. It was him and other guys.
Where would they play?
Right out there was a stage outside.
That's right.
Planet Hollywood.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Well, and then there was a piano bar down there, and then there was that I couldn't get into, but
Froggy Bottoms.
Froggy Bottoms. Yeah. That's right. I forgot there was that stage though. That makes a lot of sense. I just remember we didn't go down there all the time, but when we did, I just feel like there was so much live music, and we didn't have that in Grand Prairie. I mean, there just wasn't a place like that for there, but. So do y'all feel like Fort Worth is that place now?
Yeah, I mean, in DFW,
really,
there's a lot of music in Dallas. Fort Worth though it feels more musician-y. Like as a performer, the people in the audience are there to watch the live music. Like I played hundreds of gigs in Dallas and hundreds of gigs in Fort Worth. In Dallas, the people are more there to hang out with each other. And the band it's cool. There's a band over there, but in Fort Worth, they come there to like watch. They want to drink, have some fun, and watch some live music. So that's the thing.
And do you like performing to groups like that better? Which one do you like?
Yeah.
When they're more engaged, it's just we're all feeding off each other. They're having a good time. We're having a good time. The whole vibe of the place is going up, and that's just radiates. When you see a band and you can see that they're just into themselves and they're just like laying back, you just don't get that same kind of experience as an audience member, and you don't get that back as a performer. I think a lot of performers are like we need each other. It's a copacetic thing. One plays off the other and make something beautiful.
It does make a big difference. It absolutely does. And you're kind of right. Like, unless you go to a place like the Rustic where you're there to watch a concert, you're kind of right. Like, I had a friend of mine who lived really close down to downtown. He lived right there by the American Airlines Center. And we did see a lot of live music. But you're right. And we just went to the Stockyards not too long ago. And there's tons of live music down there.
It's everywhere.
Yeah, it is. So what's like the biggest venue that y'all played?
Oh, goodness. As the Fender Benders, Probably
any.
a some kind of fall festival or something like that. Personally, in my Alice in Chains band, we played at the Granada once,
Oh, nice.
which was kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
But I think you've probably played at some, like the Ridgely Theater and places like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we a band before I was in before the Fender Benders. We opened up for the Russ Martin band, which is kind of a funny thing because they were kind of like a fake band.
They're a radio band.
They were also really a band, but we opened for them for
Now,
New
explain
Year's
what
Eve.
a fake band is. What would you say a fake band
Well,
is?
he was a radio show, and he had a band, but they just kind of got up there and goofed around. It was kind of like watching a radio show, but with musicians playing.
Russ Martin.
It was like a morning radio show.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Was he on the Eagle? Was that
guess.
right?
I should know this,
remember.
but that was a big one. But I've played a lot of like the fest, like Mayfest and like, those kind of things.
Have y'all been to the Grand Prairie one?
We went last year to see Parliament.
Oh, you did?
It was amazing.
There was a lot of people there, I think.
It was a big deal. We couldn't believe it. We hurried home from our gig as fast as we could so we can catch that. I couldn't believe George Clinton and his band was in my hometown.
I know.
Playing We Want the Funk. Right there in I was dancing like a fool along with everybody else. It was wonderful.
It's really amazing when you go down there, you're like, Grand Prairie's kind of a big deal now.
I know. It's really growing, and it is a music-friendly city now, which I love. Our mayor, Ron Jensen, he's a big music lover.
Yes, he is.
Went to school. They went to high school together with his dad.
Oh, is that right?
They knew each other pretty well.
What was your dad's name?
Mike Brown.
Mike Brown.
Yeah.
What year did he graduate?
I want to say 1969. I don't know.
I bet he probably knew my parents.
He probably did.
He probably did. They all went to school together.
He was one of those guys that was in theater. He had a band. He was kind of popular, but the guys didn't like him because the girls were always after him.
Right, because he was a musician.
Yes.
Of course. Right.
He was a big flirt. He never gave that up.
That's awesome. Yeah, Mayor Jensen very much is all about the music. I mean, bringing in the credit union theater, and they have a stage right over here. Actually, if you go down here, have y'all been down to the Chicken and Pickle area?
I went there before it was even more developed than it is now, and they've just been adding more venues. That outdoor stage, and I can't recall what they call the event, but I'm hoping to get in there at some point.
Good, you should.
It'll be so fun.
It is very much about music. They love having, and you can hear it everywhere. So it's very cool because you can come over here, and we've done it before where they do yoga and things out there on the outside of this building, and you can just hear all the musicians playing.
That's
and
cool.
They love it. But it's great because people can listen to it for free, and then you get to go and enjoy all the restaurants. I mean, when I was walking around down there, I was like, my 16-year-old self was very jealous because I think at the time we had Chili's and like movie 16. We didn't even have movie 16. It was movie 12.
Right.
And we thought we were just, the bee's knees. And like now it's crazy. They've got a stage at the Summit, which they've done music there as well, which is very cool. And then they've got the Country Reporter Festival coming.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That is going to be here next year.
Awesome.
Which is going to be huge. And that's going to be down in downtown, the main street down there.
That's cool.
It's very cool.
I love seeing our town growing.
Yes.
I mean, the traffic is not as fun.
No, it's not.
And the extra, but everything that's coming from that is really beautiful to see.
Yeah, it absolutely is. So tell me about what is this award that y'all won?
We won the Fort Worth Weekly Music Award.
Thank you for bringing that.
2024 Best Blues Band.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
We were up against most of the people in there were friends of ours. So whoever won, everybody was winning. But we were really, really just surprised to be noticed or recognized at all. And so to win the award really felt great for his dad that passed and for Sammy, who's been doing this for 20 years plus. It was really, really a cool experience.
How did you vote? How did you get to vote?
Well, they had a online poll with all the different genres, best album, best pop act, best, all the different kinds of bests. And they ran an online thing where you could vote, and you just, it's by the people that you I guess, a popularity contest. So we asked our friends to vote for us over and over again, and they did.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
They did, and we were so grateful for it.
That's amazing.
We wouldn't have made it without them.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
We made it through 2 rounds because it was the nomination round first. Like they listed like, I don't know, it was like 12 artists in each category, and then it got and then people voted for that, and that nominated it down to 5. And then after that, people voted again.
Oh,
so
wow.
we had to beg everybody we knew to vote for us twice. That's how it went.
Well, so is this what y'all do full time?
We kept our day jobs, but we
Don't
do
we all?
this quite a lot. Most often throughout the warmer weather months, we're playing 4 days a week, live music all over.
That's awesome. And where do y'all normally, do y'all play all over the Metroplex or mainly just in Fort Worth?
Mostly Fort Worth, Arlington a little bit.
Where do you play at Arlington?
We are going to be at Binion's in a few weeks.
Where's Binion's? I don't even know where these places
It's
are.
down Division around a thing. It's got a big outdoor stage and then a smaller indoor stage. We'll be indoors, I hope.
Is this one of the newer? Is this newer also over there?
I don't know how long it's been there, but I hadn't heard of bands being there until about a year ago.
Okay, because a lot of that is new too.
It's called Binion's Ice House.
Okay.
We play at Pearl's Cherokee Lounge over there off of Division as well. It was voted the #1 coolest dive bar. And
nice.
It was recently featured in a movie. I wish I had looked up to what it was.
Not out yet, yeah.
But they've been in a place for live music for ages. We used to play at Stumpy's, but it sadly got closed down not that long ago, and we were one of the last bands to play there.
Oh.
And a newer place, the Highway Bar, has live music, and we play there, regularly as well. They have a lot of darts and food and all that stuff.
I'm gonna have to actually go because I really did like y'all's. I really did like y'all's sound.
Thanks.
Thank
It
you
was
so
very
much.
cool. I very much enjoyed that. Like I'm hoping that in this particular episode I can splice in some of those videos
Sure.
with y'all's permission because
Sure.
I would love to. Because y'all, you're the bass player, you're the guitarist, but y'all do have a really good singer and a good
Yes.
drummer. Who I know that they don't live in Grand Prairie, so we talked about having them, but they, it's not as convenient over here, but they're good.
Yes, our drummer John Mosick, he's been with the band a lot longer than I have. He is phenomenal and very much is right in line with him. They're listening to each other, they're playing off each other, and I just hold it down and they fly. And Sammy, he a lot of our songs, we're like, let's make up a song. And then just right out of that, we're like, all right, we're coming up with a little groove. He comes up with a little guitar thing, and John starts doing his thing, and Sammy could just make up the words right off the top of his head.
Wow.
And so many of the songs come about that way, and just naturally. And we haven't recorded them aside from catching them live.
I was going to ask about that too. Do y'all have like an album?
Not yet.
No.
Sammy has an old album from his previous band, Smokehouse, and we do some of those songs still to this day, but they've evolved and changed over time. And as everybody grows musically.
We say we're going to have an album done by the end of the summer, but we say that every year. So we're going to play all summer a lot. So then to get together on a day when we're not playing and actually work on stuff, it's hard to do. So
they have a recording studio upstairs.
That's what I heard.
Yeah. That was the very first place that I recorded the podcast on. But it's really not designed for a podcast. It's designed for a band.
Sure.
For an actual set, to record instruments and stuff. So it was great. That's where I recorded Mayor Jensen for the very first time. But this is a lot more intimate for a podcast. But up there is pretty awesome. They have a whole booth, sound. Real serious one. I don't know how many people record in there. I don't know how many people know that these things exist, honestly.
I've told people, because I see it in my little Grand Prairie paper that comes out every week. I'm like, oh yeah. And I'm like, there's this, and then there's this, and there's all these things going on. Y'all should do them.
Yes. That's one of the reasons I'm glad that I'm here, because you could see it in here, but nobody was using it for such a long time, like this booth in particular. And then now it's like that they're starting to get more people, they can evolve it. And so this table's new. they really try to encourage people to use all these facilities. I mean, these facilities cost a lot of money, so they want people in
Yeah,
here.
for sure.
The theater is really cool too. I don't know how much recording equipment is in there, but they do have a lot of like actual shows in there, and it's kind of more like a bar setting.
Is it the one that's down this hallway?
Down this way.
We saw Nuncrackers there.
Yes.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
What is Nuncrackers?
So we like to go to the opening night of all the Grand Prairie Arts Council
Yeah.
plays.
Yeah.
We love them.
Yeah.
That's
We don't-
amazing.
We don't know any of the actors or anything, but there's just something fun about watching the opening night.
100%.
Yeah.
They're very cool. We went to go see Newsies. I took
Oh,
my
yeah.
daughter.
It was great.
We
It
saw
was
that too.
very good.
Oh my gosh, all the flipping and the dancing.
They did a very good job.
It was very impressive.
I've
They-
seen the professional one of that, and I was a little bit worried. I was like, how are they going to do all this dancing? But they did phenomenally
They
well.
really did.
Yeah.
They did. We were just delighted the whole entire time.
So did they do Grand Prairie art
They
stuff
did.
in there?
They did one here, and they normally do it at the Uptown.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that they did that one here.
Yeah, just that one Christmas special, and it was very cute. We had
Nuncrackers. It sounds funny.
yeah, it's like
That's fine.
nonsense meets what's the other one?
The Nutcracker.
Nutcracker.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's kind of like
It-
like a funny.
Yeah,
Nutcracker.
it was very funny.
That's awesome. So do y'all live on the north side? You said.
Mhm.
So do I. I live on the north side too. Even though I grew up on the south side, I love the north side.
Yeah,
It's
me
got my
too.
heart.
Yeah,
Honestly.
it's really it hasn't changed very much.
It has not.
over all these
No.
years. So it's to us it's all the stories that we've been told. So I did this here, and
Yes.
and when we were growing up, this used to be this store, and all those places are still there.
They really are,
Yeah.
for the most part. I mean, there's a lot that are still there. I'd love to see some more stuff come through, but I mean, I will say, have y'all played the Firehouse?
We haven't yet.
Oh,
But they have a lot of really great open mic nights.
Yes.
And have really encouraged music down
They really
in
have.
downtown Grand Prairie.
and the only thing about that is the train that goes back
Oh.
and forth. But they've incorporated parts of the train as a part of their aesthetic.
Yes.
So, like, their bathroom is the train car, and I was like, that was a very smart idea.
That's great.
It is. But like, I remember I was talking to Cole Humphreys, who was a city councilman before the one we have now over on the north side. We were talking about doing like a rooftop, and it's hard to do a rooftop when you've got a train that goes through the middle
Oh,
of everything.
yeah.
Like right there. It'd be different if it was like to the side, but I would love to see something like that. But it's still a highway. People still go through them. I mean, so I don't know. But I am glad to see that the Uptown's still there
Yeah,
and
me
kicking.
too.
Yeah. So how has it been having because y'all always had like all male bands, or is this kind of a first time to have? And your wife, how has that changed anything?
So the blues scene and the Fort Worth rock and blues scene is mostly guys.
Mhm.
But where I played before, we played more, like I was saying earlier, like top 40 stuff, and like we were all across Dallas and Fort Worth. We played corporate events and
Mhm,
all that,
mhm.
weddings. And you always have a male and female vocalist in
Mhm.
those bands. So I've played with all types of people,
Mhm.
always. But when you get to like you're just playing in blues bands, there's not as many women involved. But I think a lot of that just has to do with there's not a lot of women that are like, I want to play an instrument in a blues band, like, or
Sure.
whatever, you know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
But me and Amanda worked together a lot in our lives. Outside of music, like we worked together at a mattress store for years as co-managers, and so we worked together really well. So
Yeah.
I had no worries like being like, hey wife, you want to play in the band? I didn't worry that was going to cause any issues.
No Fleetwood Mac
we worked-
issues.
Yeah, no, we worked together for years, so
So
I
far,
knew
so
that.
good.
Yeah. Well, y'all have been together for quite some time. So
We have.
Yeah. And how have you enjoyed it?
Well, it's been a dream for me. I never imagined that
I was
would
going to
get
ask
be,
you. Yeah.
Playing with these guys as advanced as they are musically and experience wise. I just never imagined that I was going to be able to hold my own with these guys. So it's been a real dream come true for me, to get to kind of get thrown in the deep end and just keep going.
You look really natural on stage.
That, it's all a front.
Well, before I listened to y'all, I just assumed you were going to be the lead singer, honestly, because that's just my own, I guess, bias. I was like, I'm sure she's just the singer, but you look awesome on stage.
Most people assume as a female that you just sing, and I do get that a lot. Like, oh, aren't you going to sing some more? You should sing some more songs. And I'm like, I just want to play my instrument.
You look really like you look like you're enjoying yourself.
I do. It is a lot of fun. And if you're not having fun making music, then you're doing the wrong thing. You're doing it wrong.
Yes, absolutely. And when you came in, we did talk about your hair.
Oh, good.
Your hair does it have its own reputation?
It's the 5th member of the Fender Benders, is what I've been told.
That's right.
I don't know if you remember back in high school, I was the weird girl with the shaved head. And then
I do not remember that. No.
And it kind of like spread a little bit. And there was a few other people that did it too. But
I don't remember that at all.
Oh my goodness. Somebody does. I'm
sure so well. I'm sure.
But anybody else that went along with the trend, they remember it.
How old were you when you did that?
I guess 14. Must have been at 10th grade time.
Was this a thing? I don't remember this.
Well, like you said, we were punk rockers back in that time,
well, of course.
So they thought, it'd be really fun to do. Let's give you a shaved head. And and we have video evidence of it, but it's really, really cringy and very embarrassing.
That's never getting out.
We're never leaking that one. Maybe we'll put it on like a Patreon or something someday. But yeah, so all of our group of friends, we were all hanging out one day, and we're all trying to be as punk rock as we possibly can. And so he gets his little clippers out and we're just shaving my heads, and I'm squealing and crying.
You did it?
Freaking out.
Oh my
God. It was a thing.
At the end of it, I'm like, I'm so punk rock now. And
then did you go home and cry?
And I went home with a hat on, trying to hide it from my parents. And as soon as I walked through the door, my mom's eyes come over, like you could just feel them burning over to pulls that hat off her head and like, what did you do? And I'm like, yeah, it's no big deal. It's really cool, just trying to explain myself. And she had a little mini meltdown, but there was nothing that could be done.
At that point, it just is what it is.
But it was like shaved and had bangs, and I just thought I was cool. I thought I was so cool.
There was so many trends back in the 90s were so weird because like you had so much. When I try to explain to my 14-year-old daughter, because she thinks that the 90s is the coolest thing that's ever existed.
Oh yes, it's on the big rebound now.
It really, really is. And so the other day she had gotten a hold of my makeup. She wears makeup. That's not a big deal to me. I'm like, just wear makeup that's appropriate for your age. I don't care. It never was a problem for me. But she found my makeup and she found my brown eyeliner.
Oh.
And she did this. And I said, you do realize that's very 90s. And she goes, people actually used to wear their lips like that. I'm like, oh yeah. And we didn't mix it. It was like straight line. And she goes, oh my gosh. And, the real heavy eyeliner and all that stuff. So it's really funny how it's all coming back. But I remember we had very distinct groups, like very clear, distinct groups. Like you had the 90s country. So you had a lot of that influence in the trends. And then you had punk rock, you had grunge, you had just goth. There was all kinds of stuff going on.
We had like gangster groups. And
gangster. Yeah, for sure.
Like your 9 Inch Nails, like goth, Marilyn Manson loving kids. And somehow like we all meshed.
We did.
With all the genres.
Yes.
I feel like we were in the best times.
I agree.
The in between of everything that was and everything that will be.
I agree. I think that especially music wise, when I go back and I watch like documentaries and stuff from the 90s, you had Lilith Fair, and then you had like, the grunge and the Lollapalooza and all that stuff. And I'm like, golly, that was just all together at the same time. But you brought a book, and I'm reminded isn't that about the music scene?
Yeah. Let me pass that off to you. Because
yeah.
It's really, this is like in the era of time where we met, and this was really his world of stuff.
Interesting.
This is a book by our friend Matt Riggle. on another SGP guy.
That needs to come on. You said I need to talk to
Yes.
him.
He would be wonderful.
It
I
documents.
feel like I don't remember Matt, but I feel like I should have.
He was an
remembered him.
upperclassman to us.
Oh,
He was-
okay,
It was,
okay.
it was a couple
He
years
was
ahead of
a
us.
Okay.
senior when I was a freshman, and he drove me. My mom paid him $20 a week to drive me to school.
Oh, that's a good gig.
Yeah.
Dang, $80 a month just to drive a kid to school.
Yeah. So this is a book about like a small 4 or 5 year period of punk rock at SGP.
This is so neat. An oral history of punk art and grief in mid-90s suburbia.
Yeah, his brother Bobby was a huge influence on all of us, and he died right then when we were 14.
Very young. He was very young, gone way too soon, but he was such a light in the lives of all of us young, wayward children.
Well, yeah, well,
Look this up.
is it set up as an interview type book, or how does it?
So what Matt did was interview everybody that was around at the time, and then compile it into a book. There's a little bit of a narrative, like it follows kind of a timeline of how everything went on. It mentions all of us, and I mean, it's wild.
Wow.
It's a neat thing. It is an actual history book about punk rock in Grand Prairie.
That I definitely want to talk to him now. That's very interesting. But is there any memories you have from the book that you want to share as far as like?
Well, it's a weird book because I remember almost all of it, and that's
really.
Yeah, let's see.
Now, was Matt and did y'all do music together back then?
Yeah, we played in a band called Fido's Revenge.
Fido's Revenge.
At SGP, and he played drums. I played guitar and sang, and our friend Chris Spurrier, who I went to Truman with, and then he went to Evangel Temple.
Okay.
We were Fido's Revenge, and we would like show up at Friendship Park and set up all of our equipment and play. And we put out flyers all week, and everybody would show up, and then the police would show up and be like, "You guys can't do this." And I'd be like, "All right, we're going to my mom's house, my parents' house," and my parents would let me bring all those kids and have a punk rock show in our driveway.
Because your dad was really into music.
Yeah, my mom.
They were
was
the
super
cool parents.
That
too.
is very cool.
Yeah, so that's outlined in this book. Like, there's a lot of that kind of stuff that went on.
Oh my gosh. So, I remember that looking back on it, like just all the influence of music. I mean, thinking back to high school, there's so much, and I wasn't really even into all that grunge at the time and all that stuff. But I remember distinctly it being, I don't know, there was just so many different kinds of songs all over the place, and I just don't see that now. But maybe I'm just not young enough to see it now. But I do think the 90s were pretty special.
We had MTV, and we call it, I don't know if other people call it this, but there was MTV Summer. It was like 1994, where there was Tom Petty, there was Nirvana was new, Green Day had like, Nirvana was actually a couple of years out, but Green Day was on, like all the stuff. Soundgarden, Black Hole Sun was like on every 45 minutes.
Yes.
Yeah, we had that. And so it wasn't just one style, it was all the popular music styles.
Was it VH1 Unplugged? Was
no,
that
was a thing too? MTV Unplugged.
MTV Unplugged.
Yeah, it was like a show where they but that whole MTV is a big part of why we had cohesive music, where we had these groups but we all knew all the music. Now it's like whatever you're into on the internet.
I was watching there's a show that I watch on YouTube, and I cannot remember his name, but he's like a music producer and a musician, and he talks about stuff going on today, but he also talks about stuff that used to happen. And he was talking about the influence of CDs. He's like, have you ever noticed that nobody knows the names of anybody's bands anymore? And he's like, we used to know the names of all the bands that we loved, and it was because we had CDs, and we had the CD sleeve that mentioned who wrote everything and all that stuff. And I'm like, God, I never even thought about that. Yeah. And we had MTV.
That, and the generation before us was like, we had records.
Yes.
And say, the music industry has changed a lot from the way it used to be to now everything's streaming and instant, and the attention span is, we've got 30 seconds to get your attention, and before it's passed on to something else. So things that really stick, they make an impact.
Yeah. I feel like it's going to come back. I'm starting to see CDs getting released now.
We buy CDs.
Do you?
I buy CDs
and records.
And records. And I could go on for like an hour about this, but I'm not going to.
Go ahead.
No,
we have time.
Streaming.
Well, I don't know if y'all have time. I have time.
Streaming's amazing because I can also right about the time I was getting into starting to explore jazz and Napster hit, and then we had paid streaming services, but it made it so that I could actually listen to every John Coltrane album or every Miles Davis album. I could hear that stuff, and I could have never afforded it. I mean, I was 18 at the time.
Sure.
So streaming's amazing because I've been able to explore any kind of music I wanted to. But before streaming, we would save up our money all week, buy one CD, listen to that CD all week, read the lyrics out of the liner notes, look at the cover, look at the pictures in there, and be like, man, these people look cool.
Yes.
And that's gone with streaming. But we do have access to everything. I mean, if you want to explore Caribbean music, you can. That wasn't possible before.
Well, now the big thing with music is reaction videos, which I actually wrote a whole Substack about reaction videos, about how they're going to save the world, because it introduces all these young people to all these old people's music.
Oh, I've seen some of those videos.
They're very cool. And it's I think the first one I watched was a young, urban kids that were 19 years old that had never listened to country music before, and they listened to Dolly Parton.
Oh, those are such great videos.
They are. And it's just this new appreciation for all these music things. And it's there's one that's a dad and his son listening to all the songs that the dad loved when he was growing up.
That's cool.
Which I love that, but I do think there is, I was at a Toby Mac concert the other day, and I saw that he was releasing his new album on CD.
Nice.
And I was like, this is coming back, because they're releasing them now on records again.
Yeah.
That's a part of the thing that they're doing. So I really do think physical music is going to come back. Plus the fact that it is digital stuff is so vulnerable. You could have access to it one day and then not access to it the other day.
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, even Garth Brooks, you can't hear Garth Brooks on certain streaming platforms.
Sure.
So that's just, I don't know. And I've seen people that have had whole PlayStation libraries of movies just wiped out completely one day.
Right.
What do you do then?
Yeah.
So
you lose it.
I know. But those CD covers were really, really important, I think.
Yeah, so you could look at that and it could become your identity.
It is. You're like, oh, I like this guy in the band, and and then you had one day that he's a drummer for a band, the next day he's a lead singer for the band,
Right.
And it's but I know who that is because I've seen him,
Yeah.
I've seen his face, I know who he is. So I don't know. I think it's something that's going to be back. That's just my opinion.
I hope so.
I hope so too.
The physical item and putting it on,
yes,
and listening to it.
Yes,
there's something special about it.
Yes, and knowing what the lyrics say and who wrote it.
Yeah,
and there, even sometimes they put stories. Stories of how that song came to be, and you don't even get that with record covers. You get that with CDs.
Yeah,
because those sleeves would just open up so long, and it was. But I don't need. Do we even have MTV anymore at all?
I don't subscribe to it, so I don't know, because it really changed. And when it quit being, yes, we do, because Yellowstone is on it. But
Yellowstone is on MTV.
It's an MTV show.
Is it Paramount?
Well, it's an MTV production.
Really?
Oh yeah, all of those. Yeah.
At the beginning, yeah.
Oh my gosh!
At the beginning of our TV shows.
If you watch the credits, it shows that it is an MTV, and it's really moved a lot from just music, but it's just another way for them to promote music through these wonderful television programs. And so I'm not mad about it, because I really like all those shows.
Yeah, I know. It's true. It's true.
There's not a cool one place you go to see what's cool through all the different types of music. Now all we can do is go to YouTube and hope that our algorithm suggests stuff that will open us up to new cool stuff.
Well, that's the thing, is it's Spotify has new music that comes out every Friday. And now my daughter listens to that. If they did some kind of, what was the top 10 show?
Casey.
Total Request Live.
Total Request Live.
Carson Daly.
That is how we knew what songs we were supposed to listen. Well, that's how the
what,
pop
what
ones.
was cool.
Yeah, exactly. But if they did something like that, I think kids today would be very open to it.
Yeah.
They want to know. And they really do love music. And they do love 90s music. Mm-hmm. A lot of them really do know a lot of 90s bands.
It's so true that music connects us all.
It does.
That it bridges generations, and we can identify, because music is feelings out loud.
Yes.
And everybody has feelings,
It does. Absolutely.
It really does. It makes a bridge for us to walk across, so we can take a moment to live in somebody else's life for a moment.
And it does make us realize like things, the way that we feel in the 60s is the same way that kids feel in the 2000s.
The times
That's
they
right.
are changing, but they ain't changing very
That's
fast.
right. Exactly.
That's right.
That's the other thing that we had so much in 90s was the soundtracks.
Oh, yeah.
We had soundtracks to all these movies. So what were y'all's favorite bands like as teenagers?
Oh, goodness. There's so many of them. That's a tough one because favorites are very like in the moment.
Yeah. Mine was 90s. I remember my parents had only a few CDs that I can recall being new. I think they were like Garth Brooks, because everybody had the Garth Brooks.
You gotta have that
CDs.
Ride the Lightning.
Yes, exactly.
That's the album.
Yes.
It's got all the hits.
And they had the Forrest Gump soundtrack.
Oh my goodness.
Which is how I
It's a great
started listening.
soundtrack.
Yes,
Yeah.
it
Bob
is.
Dylan.
That's how, Bob Dylan. I started listening to Buffalo Springfield. I'd never heard that song
Oh,
before.
yeah.
And I was like, because even then on the oldies stuff, they didn't play some of that. They don't play all the oldies. They
No.
play a few of the oldies.
That's right.
Growing up, it was a lot of the 50s stuff. But
It
for
was.
me on the radio, it's like Herman's Hermits and,
Yes.
you know, the bubblegummy pop. And,
Yes.
And now it's like the music that was my music is now on the oldie station.
Yes. And in grocery stores.
Yeah.
Listening as we shop.
That's my bop.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, why is this thing on a laundry commercial? We would never have wanted to but that this is a song that my parents didn't want me to listen to whenever I was a kid.
That's right.
What about you? What was your favorite?
I mean, I went through a lot of musical phases in my life. When I was actually like 9th grade, 10th grade, a lot of punk rock that no one's heard of. There were 2 local record stores where we could go, and they had the actual punk rock that was coming out of California at the time. But Green Day, everybody knows who Green Day is.
Of course.
Their first 3 albums, their first 2 albums were really big when I was getting into it, and then the one that became so famous came out right after. A band called Operation Ivy was a huge influence on our whole scene. They're a band nobody's ever heard of.
Never heard of
When
it.
I listen to them now, it's like it means a lot to me because I was so into it at the time. But I also don't think it's something that's super accessible. Like when somebody that wasn't into it listens to it, people might be like, "What is this?" But the words are great. I don't know. But also Snoop Dogg, Cypress Hill, Wu-Tang Clan.
Yeah.
Like, I listened to like serious punk rock and real rap. Like, so I don't know.
Well, you can tell there was an influence on both of those things. That was very much a hybrid. Like those things. I mean,
Sure.
I hear that a lot whenever I talk. I mean, obviously we had a lot of crossover.
Yeah.
You know, back then.
I think that both of those genres really were avenues for people to speak out against what was going on in the world, to shine a light on the differences and the way that people were treated and the kinds of things that happen in the communities.
Yeah.
And as a part of our small but burgeoning urban scene,
Yes.
it really spoke to a lot of the young people that, you know, were wanting to be rebellious and they wanted to fight the man and they wanted to fight the power.
Yeah. I mean, it's true though, because I mean, growing up in Grand Prairie, I feel like we always really had a pretty diverse group of people here, but our experiences weren't all diverse. We very much were all suburban kids.
Yes.
For
We
sure.
did not live in LA. We did not live in Seattle. We didn't live in New York, you know, all these places. So it's like to hear grunge come out of Seattle and Portland and stuff, and then to hear the LA influence and all that stuff, that was not our experience. So it very much was cool to hear all that, you know, because that's not something that we heard all the time.
I grew up in Trailwood, so my friends were of all types.
Yes, all types.
But everyone's families were all influenced by the same stuff.
That's right.
It didn't really,
We all had a shared experience of living in the city. And I feel like that's really what our shared experience was. But when I go back now and I watch like documentaries and stuff from music back then in different parts of the area, there's so many things that were going on in the country at the time that I had no clue what that was about.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, Dallas, I mean, there was a lot of Dallas influence music wise, but it wasn't anything like, you know, like coming out of Seattle and all those places on the north side of northwest side of the country.
But there was nothing cooler than piling all your friends in the car and going to Deep Ellum to try to like see if you could get into that club or just to walk down the street to be like in the cool. It was like the coolest, most hippest place.
Did
to
y'all go
be.
do Pelham?
A lot.
Oh,
A lot?
Every weekend if we could.
Which
We'd have our
ones?
little beepers on.
Oh my gosh.
Like
yes.
our moms would be beeping us, "Where are you at?" And we'd just be like, "All right, we're not gonna answer that."
Where'd y'all go? Trees?
Trees. There was so many different places back
Bomb
then.
Factory.
Lizard Lounge?
Oh yeah, Lizard Lounge, and then there was another one. The Curtain Club was a
The Curtain
popular
Club.
one.
I've never been to the Curtain Club.
There was like this cool little coffee shop. We were usually too young to get into any place.
Right.
So, we would be like any place that would let us come in or hang out for a little bit, we'd just go in there. But there was this cool little Insomnia it was called. It had like,
I remember
we'd be able
that.
to get
Yeah.
that was like the only place you could get espresso in the whole entire DFW area.
Yeah, we didn't have Starbucks.
And we
No.
would get out there and we would get all jazzed up on our espresso blended drinks and go out and get Jolt Colas.
That's a good reminder of Brass Bean.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
they did have like, guitar players that would stand up there and just sing, musicians and stuff.
We played New Year's Eve of Y2K.
Oh
At
my
midnight,
gosh.
we performed at Brass Bean.
They were open at midnight?
Yeah, they were staying open for
For Y2K
we,
party.
Wow.
We promoted it and like had some friends come. Josh Huck was the singer.
He recently passed.
Yes, he
And
did.
Matt
Sad to
Anderson
say.
was playing keyboard.
Matt Anderson.
Chris Breyer played bass. Who
Josh
else?
Huck was a very, very cool guy.
He was such a sweet and
Mhm.
talented
Very,
guy.
very. He was a theater kid
Yeah,
He was.
with me. Like he was a year after me, but we spent a lot of time with Josh. Very cool
Yeah,
guy.
he was
That
awesome
was
dude.
sad to hear.
He had a very sophisticated sense of humor for a high school kid. I remember he very good, like very dry.
Yeah,
His
mom was from New Zealand. I
That
think
makes a lot
he
of
had like a
sense.
different culture in his household, maybe.
Yes,
Like,
yes.
I went to his house once, and she was, to me, it was like a proper British lady was there. I didn't know what like the difference between New Zealand and what.
Sure.
But yeah. So I don't know, maybe, but he was just smart.
Very smart.
That's-
Very, very
that's
smart
the
guy.
thing, yeah.
Matt Anderson was an interesting guy too.
Yeah.
Not was, he is. He
He
is
still
an
is,
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, he is. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
He's a real character.
Was it when it was still on the south side or had they moved to the
Yeah, it
north
was
side?
where the place that before that was TCBY Yogurt.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
TCBY.
Yeah.
Now it's not even there.
We spent
No.
a lot of time hanging out at the Brass Bean outside, loitering,
Yeah.
Yes.
being a nuisance. But she was always the owner. I wish I could remember her
Barbara.
name. I guess you're probably right about that.
Wasn't
She
it
was-
Miles Austin's mother?
I don't know, but I do know that the lady that was the owner of the Brass Bean, when they moved to Main Street, when I would go there, I think her name was Barbara. My dad went there like every day.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He loved
He's a
anything that
coffee
was
guy.
like super Grand Prairie.
Oh, he was really into Grand Prairie.
Yeah. And Brass Bean was like, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I think he liked the coffee better at Starbucks. I know he did, but
Yeah.
he went to Brass Bean anyway.
Yeah. It's a local place. I mean, that's cool. But I wish I could have talked to him.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
You would
Yeah.
love him.
Yeah, I'm going to have some guys on to talk about when South Grand Prairie opened. So like Grand Prairie was always open, but then when they opened South, that was a huge transition for the city because a lot of those kids had grown up going to Grand Prairie High School and then they kind of got a choice whether they wanted to go to the new high school or not. So there's a lot of stuff happening in the 60s. And you also had the Dalworth Dragons, which was the black high school, and they all integrated together during the 60s. So there was a lot of just melting and meshing and changing and all
Yeah.
that. So I'm going to have some people on to talk about that.
That'd be
Very
cool.
interesting
It's gonna
time.
be very interesting.
Yeah, Grand Prairie was very progressive when it came to that kind of thing. I went back and I interviewed Dr. Alexander. He had graduated from Dalworth. There was a lot of very successful people that came from that high school, like a lot of really good athletes and a lot of doctors and educators. And I just wanted to know, like, what were they doing? Because as you hear, as an all black high school, like they didn't have nearly the amount of resources. I'm like, how did you graduate so many successful people out of this high school? It was really interesting conversation. That's one of the
I'll have to go
interviews I
back and
did.
listen to that.
I wish
Yeah.
I'd had better sound because
Also,
Dr. Alexander is like such a quiet guy. When you
Ah.
talk like this, and I'm like, get closer to the microphone because I actually want to hear what you're saying. But yeah, it was very cool.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, it doesn't matter what resources you have. If you have to drive for greatness, you can achieve it.
Yes, and they had a very good principal that was constantly pushing them harder. And I really went down that path trying to really understand like what was Grand Prairie like during that time. We really were progressive when it came to everybody just going to be together. we're just going to do this.
Thank goodness.
I mean, I know we didn't have anything. So it's a very unique place, and it was always very civically minded. Everybody was all about, there was all about representation and stuff. I was like, you don't really realize that, but we didn't have some of the same problems that some of these other cities did, for sure.
That's true.
So, but I think that does influence a lot of how we do things. So even now, like we just, all the music and things that we do, it's good. And we have Mayor Jensen that's very open-minded to a lot of those things. So,
For sure.
yeah, I mean, he's definitely a product of that generation.
I think that's just part of our culture here in Grand Prairie. It's like one of acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
And, we're all here together just trying to make it the best we can. And so it's a beautiful thing to see that continuing and always still blooming.
Absolutely. So where are y'all playing next? Like, what are some of the places y'all are going to be?
We host a weekly jam at Poop Deck on University Circle, or Bluebonnet Circle. It is 1 block south of TCU.
Okay.
We're there every Sunday afternoon.
2 to 6.
From 2 to 6. So we play the first set. We play from 2 to 3 as the Fender Benders. And then other musicians from around Fort Worth, or from anywhere. We actually have some people that come over from Dallas even. They get on the list, and I kind of manage it, and I try to build cool groups that'll be entertaining, and it's a jam.
So you run you run that whole time.
Yes, I run the whole thing.
That's awesome.
Technically, the Fender Benders host it, but I'm the guy that does the list.
He does all the hard work.
Oh, gotcha. So do you go out and scout and stuff?
We will put the word out on social media and stuff. But the musicians that come, they have fun, and then they tell a buddy like, "Hey, you should come out to this jam on Sunday." And it just builds up. This last week was our 106th week.
Wow.
So we're doing pretty good there.
That's amazing. Do you have a big audience that shows up?
We have a huge community of really sweet, eclectic musicians and music lovers. I always tell everybody we're like the lovin'est band in town. It's like everybody is our friend, and like they come to the gym and like, welcome to the family. You're getting a hug. We're like, bring it on in. We keep ourselves pretty humble, and everybody's on a different path. Everybody's on their own timelines musically, and everybody wants a place to kind of spread their wings. And shine a little, and we encourage it.
That's awesome.
So if anybody out there wants to come jam, check out our website, fenderbenders.band, to find out where we are.
Oh, thank you for doing that. Are y'all wanting to play anywhere outside of the Metroplex?
Anywhere that'll have us, mostly.
Really?
That has to pay really well for us to travel somewhere. That's the thing. That's the thing.
In the Metroplex, that's one thing, but we've had offers to go to other states, but it's a logistic thing. We got to figure out who's gonna babysit the drummer's newborn baby.
Who watches the dog?
Yeah,
but it's
who watches the dogs?
Right.
It has to. The price for a band to do that has to cover travel.
Sure.
And it has to cover lodging, and there's the surcharge of we don't get to wake up in our own beds. Like,
sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, it's not that, like, it's one thing if you want to, if you get in the van with, if it was just me and Amanda and we're going to do a duo act, we could easily go out for a couple of weeks and that'd be great. But when you have 4 people,
sure.
And it's not all
yeah, it's a little different as in our 40s and beyond in our band. If we were all 18-year-olds, we'd be like, all right, let's pile in this van.
Right.
We're going.
That's
right.
what I'm trying to find.
Sleep
the best
in the
way
car.
to say
It's
that.
fine. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter. We're going to do it. We're going on tour. And that's not out of the question, but comfort and all that is always something on.
Yeah. And financially, it has to work out for us to not be home.
And you don't have the same goals as an 18-year-old musician either. Like, you like doing this. This is what you enjoy, but you're not trying to, hitting it big would be great, but it's not like you have the aspirations of an 18-year-old.
Yeah, it's different.
It is different. You're doing this. This is your career at this point.
Yeah.
You're not just doing it to hit the big time once. You're doing it because you enjoy it all the time.
For the love of the music.
That's right.
Now, does your daughter listen or come to any of your shows?
Well, she moved to Missouri a couple years back, so when she's in town, her and her partner come, and they get to be part of that. And she's musical too. She likes to play drums, and guitar, and write songs as a poet as well. So the apple didn't fall too far from the tree, but just out there living life and making a go of it.
Did she spend time with your dad and get to?
Yes, she did.
She did?
Yeah, a lot. Yeah.
And did he teach her?
Yeah.
He did.
Yeah. She can play.
She can?
She just doesn't, she's not like us. Like, this is what we do.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
She's not really like that.
So what all instruments can you play?
I would like to just be honest and say guitar and bass. And guitar is really what
you love.
I work at it. I work at Yeah. I hope to someday be able to teach like the most advanced other guitar players something that they don't know. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I can get something from them too. Like,
sure.
Yeah. I can play bass. Like, I do bass gigs and guitar gigs. I can play piano really poorly. I could record on my own song if I have time to like work it out, but I could not play it. Like, I couldn't show up at a gig and somebody just be like, wow, this one's in B, and me just be able to.
I've always wanted to do that.
You still can.
Well,
you can.
I say that I want to, but then do you really want to? Because I would have learned already.
You have to work a lot.
You do. Yeah.
All you have to do is decide to do it and take action.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, anybody can start anything at any time. It's not too late. I mean, I didn't even start playing in a real gigging band like this until I was 42, 43.
Yeah.
And in just a couple of years, we're winning awards. And
you
can do it. Everybody can do it.
Everybody can. That's like Charles Luckert used to run the Grand Prairie at a glance. And he was in his 60s, had no clue anything about social media whatsoever. And he just started doing that. And that was the thing that grew. And I always thought it was so interesting because I was like, it doesn't matter how old you are. You can start doing anything at any point in time.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was the most interesting thing. He didn't find that very interesting. I was like, it's very interesting for people just to start picking up on something at the end of their life. It turned out it was at the end of his life, but he was in his late 60s. It wasn't like, he didn't go to a class or anything. He just started doing it.
We've got so much more time than we ever imagined.
Yes.
And, you could start something in your 60s and people live way beyond their 80s. A lot of people, even in their 70s and older, come out and they're dancing and they're having a good time. The advancements in healthcare and the ability to have the resources, just opens up the world for everyone.
Yes, I mean, so YouTube is how I learned how to redo my kitchen.
Yes,
you can watch and do anything, and so I mean. This is my passion, is the podcast thing, but anybody can start that. And so I would love to have like a local part of this just to be music.
Oh, that would be really cool.
I know, because you mentioned another band that came out of here.
Yeah, there's
tons.
Quite a few bands that came out of.
There are. Yeah. And I think people would be very interested to learn those things. Singers. I mean, we have a lot of those.
Absolutely.
And I talked to JB about a lot of sports players have come out of here, like NFL and people that have played professionally. So, I mean, I think it'd be cool to keep this, but I'm glad that y'all came.
Yeah, there's a lot of talent.
How was your first podcast?
It was wonderful. This is really, really a cool experience, and just to get to talk with you and catch up about everything that, our experiences growing up. It's just been a nice little walk down memory lane.
Oh, and where else did you say you are playing? So y'all play on Sundays.
We're at Binion's Ice House this upcoming Friday. The week after, we're at Shotzi's in Lake Worth. Just look it up, Shotzi's. And that's the Saturday after. Well, I'm going to give you the dates because why would I not?
Of course, that's why you're here.
You're always welcome to...
We're at Binion's February 28th, March 7th, Shotzi's. Maggie's R&R on Magnolia, March 14th. We have a jam at Texas Ice House in Fort Worth on Thursdays also. So if you can't make it to the Sunday jam, there's a Thursday jam, and that's a new thing.
Okay.
So we'll see how that works out.
And all y'all's shows and everything are on your website.
Yeah, that's right.
FenderBenders.band. As long as I updated it, but I think it's up to date right now.
How
that goes.
I'll be sure to remind you.
Yeah.
But I would love to come hear y'all. I really did enjoy y'all's songs on YouTube.
Cool. I mean, we have a wide variety of different kinds of music and appeal to a wide audience. We're family friendly and available for private events, house parties, any kind of thing. If you need a band for anything, please consider us.
Yeah. And y'all do cover songs.
Oh yes.
Like there was, but it's very rare that I like original songs for bands I don't know. And I actually did like all those songs. Because sometimes you're like, okay, get to the thing that I know. But like these were good. I really, really enjoyed it. So
thank you. That means a lot. Because Sammy will come up with an idea for the words, but musically, it's all us. Like, me and Amanda and John the drummer.
Yes.
It's like we and so I'm always trying to make it weird but cool, but still acceptable. Something that people want to listen to,
sure,
but also creative and fun for me.
Yes, I can hear that in it. Like, because there was one song, and I can't remember the titles, but there was one song that was a little bit more funky, and another song that's not so funky, but it has a little bit. But it all it's all cohesive. The sound is cohesive. It's not like it's like you're listening to two different bands in each song. And then even when y'all played the covers, I was like, you can still hear all that same sound.
Yeah,
which is cool.
Put our own spin on it. We call it we Fender Bend it.
Yeah,
that's right.
We Fender Bend it.
I love that. Well, thank y'all for coming out. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Y'all are welcome back anytime. Maybe next time we all could bring the band with you.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
Wouldn't that be cool?
I could try. Yeah,
we could
try.
Maybe we could work that out. That'd be kind of neat. I could talk to them and see if they'll let us use that, because that'd be a cool show.
That'd be awesome.
That'd be a lot of fun.